Good morning, students. Welcome back. Today we continue to begin with our third chapter, and we will start from paragraph number 8, where we left last time. So, here you can see on your mobile screens paragraph number 8. Hours later, when grandmother had wrapped her in a shawl and rocked her in the rocking chair, the child clung to her soft body. Now, last time I'm sure you remember that there was a mistake done by the little girl, and her father also hit her on her hands with the ruler. Now, after the beating, after a few hours, grandmother took the little girl, wrapped her up in her shawl, and made her sit on her lap on the rocking chair. Now, what is the rocking chair? Rocking chair is a type of chair, basically a wooden chair on which you sit down, okay, especially used by the very old people, the grandparents. And the chair moves to and fro, okay, up and down, and it is as if a person is swinging. That is the feeling you have on a rocking chair. And this little girl is clinging very close to her soft body. Whose soft body? Grandmother's soft body. The child is very close to her. She's so scared. What did God made fathers for? She sobbed. Now the little girl is still crying after hours of beating. Okay? Now she's saying, why did God made fathers? What is the use of making such father, parent? Here's a clean hanky, darling. Blow your nose. So your grandmother is showing her love and says, okay, baby, don't cry. Take this hanky. Hanky means handkerchief. And she is calling the little girl darling. Darling is basically used for a person who is very dear to you. All of you are darling to your mom and dad, to your parents, okay? Because they love you. Blow your nose. Blow your nose means clean your nose. While the little girl is continuously crying, her nose started watering. So she takes a hanky and she blows, cleans her nose. Blowing basically means to push everything out from the nose with a gush. Go to sleep, pet. You will forget all about it in the morning. Now, here the grandmother continues saying and calling this little girl pet. Pet basically, we use this word for animals that we keep in a house as loved ones, like the cats, dogs, a few birds, fish, etc. So we call them pet. So this little girl was like a pet for her grandmother because grandmother loved her very much. And she said, Beta, you go to sleep. You will forget everything in the morning. I tried to explain to father, but he was too upset to listen tonight. Now the girl continues saying, she's still crying. She said, tried to explain, I tried to tell him that no, it was not my mistake. I have done this unknowingly. But he was so angry tonight that he did not listen to me and he beat me. But the child never forgot. Now the next day also the child did not forget about it. Okay? Whenever she saw her father next time she saw him, she quickly put both hands behind her back and a red color flew into her cheeks. So now, whenever she confronted her father or she came in front of her father, all of a sudden, she was so scared she used to put her hands at the back. She thought that he will beat her again. And she became very frightened and her color of her face became red. She was so scared. Now we'll see in the next paragraph, and that is the McDonalds lived next door. Now she had a neighbor, and they were Mr. and Mrs. McDonald's. Okay, they had 5 children. How many children they had? 5. Okay, looking through a gap in the fence, the little girl saw them playing tag in the evening. So what happened? The neighbor, too much of noise was coming from the neighbor's house. Okay, Now, this little girl from the fence, fence is a small boundary made of wood. So there is little gap between the wood, and she can peep and see the neighbor's house and the neighbor's garden. So she saw from there, and she saw that those children, those five children, were playing tag. Tag is a type of game which you can see is already given away here, like catching one another, running behind. Okay. Now, the father with the baby Mao on his shoulders, two little girls hanging on to his coat pockets, ran round and round the flower beds, shaking with laughter. Now, here the father, whose father? The is here Mr. MacDonald. Okay. Now he was playing with his children. Now the smallest baby was sitting on his shoulders, and the baby's name was Mao. And there were two little girls. Mao's two small sisters were hanging from Mr. MacDonald, father's coat pocket. Okay, and they were running round and round the flower beds, and they were laughing and shaking and making so much of fun and having good time in the evening playing with their father. Once she saw the boys turn the hose on him, and he tried to catch them laughing all the time. Now she saw that two little boys were also there. Now these two little girls were hanging from the coat pocket, and there were two little boys. Now these two little boys were from the pipe in the garden. They were putting water, hose on him. Hose is the water pipe from which the water gushes out with a speed, and they try to put that water on their father, trying to wet him up. And what he did, the boys were becoming naughty. He tried to run and catch them, and they were running and they were laughing all the time, and there was so much of noise. And this little girl, all alone, was watching the five children playing with their father, Mr. MacDonald. Then it was, she decided there were different sorts of father. Now, what happened? This girl, when she was seeing through the fence, she saw, oh, Mr. MacDonald is so loving. He is playing with his children, and my father doesn't play. So, in her mind, it comes, oh, there are different types of fathers. Okay. Suddenly, one day, mother became ill, and she and grandmother went to hospital. So, one day, what happened? Now, the scene changes. One day, this little girl's mother becomes sick. So the grandmother has had to take the mother to the hospital. The little girl was left alone in the house with Alice, the cook. So the mother was sick, grandmother and father went to the hospital, and father went to his job. So this girl was all alone in the house with the cook, and the cook's name is Alice. That was all right in the daytime. So in the daytime everything was fine. But in the evening what happened? While Alice was putting her to bed, she grew suddenly afraid. So in the evening, when father came back home, Alice was putting this girl to sleep because the cook was staying in the same house. So she said, okay, girl, you go to sleep. Now when she was putting the girl to sleep, what happened? She grew suddenly afraid. She was afraid because she was never left alone. But the situation became such that mother was sick, and grandmother and mother both had to go to the hospital. So this girl was supposed to sleep alone now. What will I do if I had a nightmare? She asked. So she said, what will I do if I get a bad dream? A nightmare is basically a bad dream. When children get scared, I often have nightmares. And then Granny takes me into her bed. I can't stay in the dark. It all gets whispery. Now this little girl is complaining. She's telling Alice, what will I do if I get a very bad dream? Now whenever I had dream, I usually get bad dreams. So what happened? Granny will come to my room, and then she will pick me up and she will take me into her room, and I will sleep with Granny. And she said, I cannot stay all alone in the dark. And when alone I am in my room, I can hear There is very sound whispers from all angle of the room. There are sounds coming in the dark room. Now, here in our country, we will find parents and children all sleeping in the same room, or maybe if they have two rooms they will sleep in different room. But in a few countries like America and UK and all, children have a separate room. Even if they are very young, they never sleep with the parents. The great grandparents or the grandparents will have a separate room. The children, no matter how small they are, they will have a separate room, and the parents will have a separate room. So they all have different room. Okay, but not in India. In India, we all sleep in one room only. So you just go to sleep, child, said Alice, pulling off her socks. And don't you scream and wake your poor pa. So now Alice is telling, come on, my child, just go to sleep. She took off her socks and she said, you don't make a noise. Don't shout out loud, even if you are getting scared, because your father is sleeping in the other room and he will be woken up. You will wake him up by shouting. But as soon as Alice went away, the room became dark and same old nightmare came. Now this girl went to sleep and soon she started dreaming, and in her dream she got the same bad dream, the butcher with a knife and a rope, who came nearer and nearer, smiling that dreadful smile. Now, what happened in her dream? What did she see? She often saw a butcher. A butcher is a man who cuts meat and sells meat. So she saw a butcher, and in the butcher's hand, of course, there was a knife and a rope. And in her dreams, he was coming nearer and nearer to the girl and giving that frightened, dreadful smile while she could not move. She was so scared. In her dreams, she could not move, and even on her bed, could only stand still, crying out. Now, in her dream, she could not move. She saw that man coming closer with the knife as if he was going to cut her, kill her. Now, she was crying out. Then, all of a sudden, she started yelling and shouting in the dark room, Grandma, Grandma. She woke, shivering, to see father beside her bed, a candle in his hand. Now, what happened? In her dream, when she saw this butcher with a knife, she started shouting for her grandma. She was shivering, and when she woke up, her eyes she opened, she saw who was there. She saw her father with a candle in his hand, standing just beside her bed. What's the matter? He said. And then he said to the girl, why are you shouting? What is the matter? What is there to shout? What made you frightened? So, this is what the father asked. So, boys and girls, today we will only be doing till paragraph number 10. We will continue with the 11th paragraph in our next class. Thank you so much for giving your precious time. Please read this again and again. And if you find any problem with any meaning, just go through your dictionary, or you can even check it on your net. So thank you. Have a great day ahead. Bye bye for now.